Thanks, everyone. It's so exciting actually to be back on stage after like a couple of years, and good to see and meet you all face to face as well. Yeah, how are you all doing today? It's great, thanks. I will try my best to engage as much as I can, and it's late afternoon session. It's pretty difficult, but yeah, let me try, and we'll do a quick smoke test. How many of you attended API Days conference today? All right. I got my attention like where to look at. All right, we'll get started. This is a 360 view of API testing, and here's the agenda. We'll be going through. We'll have a quick intro, the Bunnings overview, and we'll talk about what I have have the experience on working with more than 10 years of API testing, as well as being part of Kong API gateway implementation from end-to-end perspective. That's the key reason of the talk. And we'll also cover key things like what we'll be looking from all the directions when it comes to testing. Who am I? I'm Aswin Golla, and thanks for the quick introduction, Saul. And I'm the senior automation test engineer working in Bunnings. And yeah, I have crazy adrenaline activities I'm quite excited to do in general. And on the right side, you could see air combat dogfight and a zero gravity parabolic flight. That's been my short and long-term goals, been there from past 2 years. So hopefully, since been out of the pandemic now, so I'm quite excited in the coming summer. Probably I could get that dogfight done. Yeah, still fingers crossed. Being in Melbourne, we know how the weather looks like. And my career journey, I've been in the IT industry for more than 15 years, and worked with large, small, and medium-scale businesses, as well as even a startup back in New Zealand in a shed as well, where I still remember I used to shut down the shutter after I finished my work as well. And yeah, it's pretty good experience. And it's been work with a lot of talented people, and yeah, it's such a great journey I had. And quite recently, I've been more career-oriented towards the cybersecurity, had a advanced cybersecurity program from Stanford University, and also learning advisor for QA10 Spinburn for some of the units, master's units of the cybersecurity courses. And for career mentoring, this is my favorite one. I've been doing from past 2 years, and I would encourage doing that as well. So we have a career mentoring program in RMIT. So it just goes around 3 months. You just need to allocate some time to any of the student in general, and it's just 1 hour per month, and it's more about how you inspire them, and also just bridge the gap between the academic as well as the current industry trends. And it's quite helpful, and it's pretty powerful program. And it's a great platform to inspire the upcoming generation of the young professionals as well. I'm sure some of the fellow IBMers are there, and it's quite exciting. If you are in IBM, you'll be definitely part of being included in more towards the innovative ideas, and that's how I've been involved in being part of a co-inventor as part of one US patent as well. Coming to Bunnings, who all here doesn't know about Bunnings? That's perfect, actually. Can't see anyone's hand. So yeah, you could see pretty much all. It's been an year I've been in Bunnings, and it's quite amazing how talented the team we have. And you could see the digital online for both retail and the trade customer centric. And it's been a lot of cool things happening in the Bunnings space as well. And we have an awesome team here as well to cheer me up. And they are awesome, doing so many cool things. And please feel free to meet and get to know what's been happening. I quite encourage that. And getting back to on the topic, for one of the previous organizations I've been, as I said, I've been involved in Kong gateway implementation end to end. I'm not going much into in depth, what Kong is about, kind of. But if you look from testing perspective, it's much required the API governance, and more from documentation side as well, actually. and from more design-centric way, and how cool, like, I mean, you could collaborate and engage with the developers and even like quality engineers from different teams, and as well as like how smoothly you could onboard them as well. And even like if anyone gets to new and would like to know, like, I mean, what's been around in the APIs in the organization, it's a one-stop shop where you could get to know, like, I mean, what's been there, and also, like, I mean, how streamlined the onboarding process looks like as well. And while this implementation, I'll be working on more on the automation using like Insomnia, Kong Studio, which I'll be covering in the next slide. Any of you use Insomnia before? Postman? Yeah, it's quite a big hand on the Postman. Yeah, Insomnia, it took me some trouble actually, I mean, to getting the automation, but the way the Insomnia has been developed is quite really great actually. It's more of a design first approach. And I fiddled around actually, like I just try to import normal Postman collection kind of, but it mandates to have a spec first. And it's just quite amazing actually, like I mean, why like even like developers like quite like this tool. And apart from it, like it also has ability of the gRPC. If you look back on the Postman as well, it doesn't have a capability of capturing of the gRPC, and now it's been like engaging more and more from the Postman side as well. And one quick thing I really liked in Insomnia is the plugin hub. So you have like already been plugged in so many things. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. If you look from the automation perspective, from the API testing, you have like so many headers there. And out of that experience, like I remember, like even I raised a feature. The only thing which I don't see in Insomnia is that you can't create a folder for the tests. So yeah, so it's more like design and developer centric. I think like it's still getting mature, and also like it's a lot of changes it seems like, but it's there. But that's very good experience, and I was able to automate much as I could. And not only the existing APIs, it's more about the actual API services that's required for API gateway itself. So when you try to deploy things, like I mean, making sure, like I mean, is it having the right access or right role? So yeah, it's part of a great journey, and sort of like yeah, sharing that experience with you all. And it has a cool product, Mockbane. Maybe I not more talk about the actual Mockbane, like what is it about. But it's quite important when it comes to API testing, or maybe even from design point of or development point of view. Actually, like I mean, we definitely need a mock server in general, not from the API's perspective as well. Even it's quite helpful for UI perspective, and especially if you are really keen on looking on the continuous integration. In today's days, like I mean, no one wants to deploy in the environment and then do the testing, and that's where the actual mock server comes in. And these days, you have like so many mock servers where you could build a normal the Node.js related, or you could just have it in your local host and you could use up. And if you look from design perspective as well, so you start with the spec, and also like I mean, you could get started with the mocking things straight away on that as well. And you would have seen actually like in general, like in large organizations as well, the front end and the back end engineers, like I mean, it might be in the solo at some point, and from the major features as well. And also have observed in my experience, actually, like if you are from the web team or the mobile team or the API team, sometimes actually, like I mean, the development of the mock server goes with either of the teams. It can be going from the API backend engineers, or sometimes like when due to priorities and all, like even front-end engineers pitch in and update the mock server. But whoever is doing what, I think it's much required like to have a mock server and spin across, so that it gives out quite flexibility in terms of getting early feedback itself. And from performance point of view, like I was looking more on the K6 at that point, which is seamlessly like it's pretty good one. Maybe you can have a quick check. How many have used like K6 here for performance? Like a few hands, yeah. And it's pretty good actually, like if you look from the programming point of view as well, the way the functional and the performance, and it's pretty like developer friendly as well. And I understand, like I mean, few organizations have seen, like I mean, we don't see the performance happening until it goes to a performance environment. But still, like I mean, there is a way, like I mean, we could still have it in the CI, having known like how stable or how like the environment in your non-prod is, you could still tackle the like changing the factor, the stats, like how much it could withhold, and everything. It could be part of the CI as well. And yeah, that's pretty much like I liked it on the performance side. And this is my favorite one, like Zipkin. When I was exploring on the plugins for Kong Gateway, one thing like that captured me more thing is like apart from the OIDC or maybe the other required plugins, I was like quite thrilled to see this Zipkin. Like, I mean, to give a background of it, like it's been developed by Twitter, and later it has been open source, and it's been available as a plugin in Kong Gateway as well. So what exactly is that? Like, you will have a visible, clear thing, like, I mean, how your microservices are interacting and how much time it's taking. It's not only between the services, even you can, if you could see that, like, till your backend, like, I mean, how long it takes. And it's quick, gives out a quick visibility, like, even if there is any issue of, like, whereabouts, like, it's taking more time. And this is like, quite helpful. And this goes according, like if you know the correlation ID, you could just backtrace all the calls, how it's been made, and not only that, like showcasing what I'm here, and even like while doing a API gateway implementation, I've seen myself actually like when like there's a load balancer, one of the service is not responding and it's taking more time. It's not responding, like it's taking more time. And while visually looking at it, it just says like, okay, and where exactly is the microservice is not responding, and it is quite visible. And so you need not to go to the logs and look for it, but it's in a visual way, it's pretty good. And omni-channel monitoring, it's just like given like browser and mobile standpoint. You could imagine like I mean, these days it's not like browser or mobile related. You have like UI everywhere. You have like each and everything in the digital space. Why is it important for quality engineers or anyone in the test team looking for the monitoring? So monitoring is not like more from the operations perspective, how it's been utilized, but it's quite important to look from the usage perspective, both from the UI as well as API as well, even in the non-prod. So one of the experience I had is like, I have come across, like I know like there's an API usage like one endpoint takes more load and on specific days, and it's been happening more for web. Sorry, other way around. It's happening less for web and more for mobile. And after looking over like why it's been happening like only for specific iOS app application, then we came to know actually like it's been calling up twice or multiple more than once kind of, and that's been happening from a long time. And these are the things actually it's not about like finding the errors itself, like you could just even like continuous improvement basis, you can fine tune and get to know like I mean how things are happening from the omni-channel side as well. And coming from the API errors as well, it's quite important to know like I mean in the non-prod itself, like you will get to know like I mean what sort of different errors are coming, and it's quite important like for each release and all, like you could take a look and snapshot and see like I mean how the errors are coming through. Are they like I mean more 500 or 404 or kind of like I mean any kind of B, like I mean it gives us a quick snapshot. And yeah, pretty much on the test environment monitoring as well. You always look from, yeah, test all grain, but how about the environment? Environment should be stable enough, right? So for that specific as well, even we could have some sort of API automation and keep continuous running, and we could keep monitoring as well. And if there are any issues happening from the UI front, and we could just compare with the environments as well. Like, I mean, if environment is not stable, there's no point the test being expecting to be green as well. And troubleshooting between UI and API issues, this is a funny thing happens. Like, I mean, if you have like large UI team and the API team, and it's always been back and forth, like, yeah, where's the issue, UI or API, back and forth going across. Yeah, that's the key reason like why monitoring is quite important. On the security side, it's not that something actually like security, when we talk about it, it's just the responsibility of cybersecurity team. And if you look from OS perspective, the Open Web Application Security Project, the API top 10 still from past like 2019, it's still the same set of like top priority vulnerabilities what we have. And yeah, we still have like, I mean, we could get like different tools having in the CI like Snyk or SonarQube, but still, it's quite important to have from UI API perspective to have some tests across the security layer as well. Having said that, like these are the things which ones you could automate and be part of the CI line. Fuzz testing, how many of you have been involved in fuzzing or fuzz testing? And it's been quite popular, actually, even if you'd have seen the recent article in Google, like, I mean, you would have heard about the heartbeat vulnerability, and that could have been already, like, I mean, picked up if you would have done, like, fuzzing from the beginning itself. And from the API perspective, like, Microsoft has a Resla, which is a fuzzer, and this has been made open source as well. And I would highly recommend, like, if anyone haven't used it, to get started on that. And finally, being a cybersecurity enthusiast, actually, if you see, Federal has a great budget and been worked with so many organizations and have a lot of information on the cyber.gov.au. And also, like, I mean, if you sign up yourself, you'll be always get to know, like, I mean, what's the existing threat, and there's heaps of information if you see on the left screenshot. It's meant for individuals and families, and not only that, it's also has it's quite helpful for, even for startups as well. If you're not getting into too many security products, at least to get to know, like, I mean, what's been there for small and medium-scale businesses, and also from government and large organization perspective as well. And not only that, like, I mean, you have like is the essential 8, and there's heaps of information. Like, it's not like something, it's not just for cybersecurity team. I think it's quite important to get everyone in the organization to get to know what's been there. Yeah, just provided a quick references there. And we'll leave for questions. API is more about the getting in line with the devs and QAs, ensure to get to the automation framework in general. It's quite important to get the buy-in from both the sides, and you could do like, I mean, automate like in different ways. API is more about if you look from like, I mean, as long as you have the endpoint and you know like what it is, quite easy task. But I think the first thing, like getting on the framework, you need to get buy-in from different teams, and yeah, once you stick to the framework, and it's you get early feedback as well. And even in my previous experience, like we used to have the API suite about like running like 500 to 600 tests, and it just runs for 5 minutes, and by 9 o'clock, we used to get to know, okay, the environment is all good. And yeah, that's a good way to go for the API automation as well.
I've got one for you while we're waiting.
I was just going to say, are there any differences between, or have you found any differences between testing kind of internal microservice type APIs versus public APIs? Is there any different areas that you should focus on differently for those cases?
Definitely, that's where actually the API gateway and different tools comes in actually to onboard, like when we are using public APIs. So we should be letting know actually, I mean, how sort of like we need to have a role-based thing. And even internal APIs as well, actually, it could be differing between different organizations or different businesses as well. One may not be requiring like full scope of access kind of. So all that sort of management, it shouldn't be in the business logic, but more of the tools like what's been on the API gateway level, that should be able to manage that. That should be the first, starting point, I would say.
For public APIs and other APIs, like, did you do any particular contract testing things like?
That's a good question, actually. Like, I know, like, I mean, the next talk is about the contract testing, and when I say like 360-degree view, definitely, like, I mean, I will leave that to, like, I mean, for the next Packflow thing. But if you would have seen my 360-degree slide, I just included just a logo of the contract testing to touch base on. But since it's a 20-minute talk, I will leave the floor to James, actually.
I've got a question about mock bid and mocks, stateless mocks versus stateful mocks. How do you handle those? How do you handle stateful ones?
I haven't worked much on implementation level, but I think it's more with happens with based on the requirement
I
and
find you have to basically just build a mini app.
and yeah, that's what actually that's where I've seen even the mock server that's getting built. Sometimes it comes from the UI side end or from the backend engineers.
Yeah.
It doesn't go who needs to do start or who needs to get started or who needs to be responsible for maintaining that as well. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
that's a great question.
All right. Let's thank Aswin for a presentation.